The restaurant was still glowing with candlelight when he realized the chair across from him would remain empty, the untouched glass of water catching reflections of a life that suddenly felt far too quiet. His phone lay face down beside the plate, unanswered messages stacked like small, silent rejections, and in that moment the powerful millionaire CEO, celebrated on magazine covers, feared in boardrooms, felt smaller than he ever had. Disappointment settled into his chest, heavy and familiar, as he stared at the empty seat meant for someone who never came. Just as he was about to stand and leave, weighed down by another reminder that success had not saved him from loneliness, a soft presence moved beside him, carrying her own quiet sadness into the glow of the evening. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that even broken evenings can turn into beautiful beginnings, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel, Kindness Talks. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. She was a single mother, though no one would have guessed it at first glance. There was a gentle exhaustion in her posture, the kind that comes from years of carrying responsibility alone, and a warmth in her eyes that hadn't been fully dimmed by hardship. Her own table nearby was just as empty, a folded napkin resting where someone else should have been, and when she finally gathered the courage to speak, it wasn't with confidence but with empathy born from shared disappointment. Her whisper drifted into his space like a fragile bridge between two strangers, and somehow, in that quiet moment, the weight in his chest shifted. For the first time that evening, he wasn't alone in his loneliness. The CEO's life, from the outside, looked like a flawless story of ambition rewarded. He had built his company from nothing, endured sleepless nights, ruthless competition, and the constant pressure to be more, do more, achieve more. Yet every milestone had come with a cost. Relationships had withered under his absence, friendships faded when he had no time to nurture them, and love became something he scheduled rather than felt. Tonight was meant to be different. This blind date was supposed to be a step toward reclaiming a part of himself he had neglected for too long. Instead, it became another reminder that even when he tried, things often slipped through his fingers. The single mother carried her own story, one shaped not by corporate victories but by quiet sacrifices. She had learned to stretch small joys into something meaningful, to find strength in routines that revolved around her child, and to carry grief without letting it harden her heart. Her blind date had been a rare act of courage, a decision to believe that life might still hold space for romance and connection. When her date failed to show, the sting was sharp, not just because of rejection, but because it felt like proof that hoping was foolish. Still, she remained seated longer than she should have, unwilling to let the night define her worth. As they sat together, their conversation unfolded slowly, without pretense. There were no grand confessions or dramatic revelations, just two people sharing fragments of their lives, discovering comfort in honesty. The restaurant faded into the background as they spoke about exhaustion, expectations, and the strange ache of feeling invisible despite being surrounded by people. He found himself listening more than he spoke, surprised by how grounding her presence felt. She listened too, not impressed by his wealth or status, but curious about the man beneath the tailored suit. Time moved differently at that table. What began as a consolation turned into connection, and with each passing minute, the heaviness of the evening softened. The CEO felt something unfamiliar stirring, a sense of ease, of being accepted without needing to perform or impress. For the single mother, there was relief in being seen not as someone to be pitied, but as someone worth knowing. Their shared disappointment became the foundation of something unexpectedly hopeful. In the days that followed, their paths crossed again, not by chance but by choice. Simple meetings replaced elaborate plans, and in those moments, they learned more about each other's worlds. He saw the quiet heroism in her daily life, the way she balanced love and responsibility with grace. She saw his vulnerability, the cracks beneath his polished exterior, and the loneliness that success had never healed. Each meeting chipped away at the walls they had built, revealing parts of themselves they had long kept hidden. Yet challenges soon emerged, testing the fragile connection they were building. His world was demanding and relentless, pulling him back into schedules and obligations that left little room for spontaneity. Her world required consistency and reliability, values shaped by the needs of her child. Doubt crept in, whispering that their lives were too different, that hope might once again lead to disappointment. Old fears resurfaced, threatening to undo the progress they had made. For the CEO, the struggle was internal. He had spent years defining himself by achievement, measuring his worth in profits and accolades. Choosing to prioritize something as uncertain as love felt risky, almost irresponsible. He wrestled with the fear of losing control, of allowing someone into a life he had carefully structured to avoid pain. Meanwhile, the single mother faced her own fears, of trusting again, of exposing her child to the possibility of loss, of believing that happiness could be more than fleeting. Change began quietly, through small, deliberate choices. He started leaving work earlier, discovering that the company did not crumble in his absence. She allowed herself to imagine a future that included partnership rather than solitude. They supported each other through setbacks, learning that growth often comes disguised as discomfort. Slowly, their connection deepened, rooted not in perfection but in perseverance. The turning point came when life tested them in a way neither could ignore. A crisis at his company threatened everything he had built, demanding his full attention and reigniting old habits. At the same time, she faced a personal challenge that required strength she wasn't sure she had left. In those moments, they chose to stand together rather than retreat into familiar isolation. It was not easy, and there were moments of doubt and fear, but there was also resilience and trust. Through struggle, they discovered something profound. Kindness is not a grand gesture but a series of small acts of presence. Second chances are not about erasing the past, but about choosing differently despite it. The CEO learned that vulnerability was not weakness, and the single mother learned that hope was not naive. Together, they redefined what success and fulfillment looked like. As their story unfolded, it became clear that the missed blind date had not been a failure, but a quiet redirection. Two lives, shaped by different hardships, had intersected at precisely the right moment. The empty chairs that once symbolized rejection now felt like markers of a path that led them toward each other. What began as shared disappointment transformed into a partnership grounded in empathy and respect. If you've stayed with this story so far, take a moment right now to comment below and share what part of it resonated with you the most. Your words matter, and they help build a community rooted in understanding and compassion. Near the end of that journey, they looked back at the night they first met and recognized it as a turning point. Not because it was perfect, but because it was honest. The sadness they felt that evening had opened them to connection, reminding them that even broken moments can carry the seeds of something beautiful. Their lives were still imperfect, still demanding, but they faced them together, strengthened by the knowledge that kindness and courage can change the course of a story. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that hope can arrive in unexpected ways and that second chances are always possible, please like, share, and engage with this video. Your support helps spread stories that inspire empathy and healing. And remember, sometimes the person meant to change your life isn't the one who shows up on time, but the one who understands why you waited.